Hello, everyone. Welcome to the extra episode.
Welcome to not your regular programming.
Yeah, welcome to the extra episode of us just crying about the end of our campaign. Yeah. A lot of tears. There's going to be a lot of crying. I hope you're ready for that. I intentionally didn't put makeup on because I was like, I'm just going to cry.
I'm going to cry.
I'm simply going to cry.
I'm about to cry. So
this whole video, probably. Yeah. So I put my eyebrows on and that's about it. Well, that is it. So I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear that I look sick. I know.
I didn't put any makeup on as normal.
No!
Society doesn't think that I need it.
Boo!
Strangely. Fair enough. But...
Makeup's so much fun, though.
Yeah.
So... I don't really know how to start this, to be honest.
It's on a new tripod. The camera's on a different tripod. We're trying a different because it's extra episode.
So we were like, let's get funky with it, let's
just get a little crazy down with it, you know.
Let's try the new thing.
Go crazy, go stupid.
So it's a bit of a slightly different angle.
Yeah.
I will find out in editing how it looks. Jack, oh my god, I thought you were going to be like, there's a spider. Yeah. So hello. I hope everyone's having a wonderful day. I don't know what day this is going out.
We think we're going to put it up on Sunday.
We're thinking it's Sunday. If it's not, I hope you're having a nice day. I guess we don't really need to do much of a life update.
We can do some shills because it's still our channel.
Yes.
But apart from that, we're just going to get into the episodes.
Yeah, get into the meat and potatoes of it.
So let's just chill ourselves.
First of all.
Yeah.
Neither
of us have got any merch on.
No, well, technically, I've got a hoodie on that we made for me.
You've been here. If you've been here before, amazing. If you haven't, totally fair. Me and Margaret run a small business called Hellbound Dice. We'll link it in the description below. That's our Etsy shop. You can go buy a plentiful amount of Dungeons and Dragons things, from notebooks to spell cards to mugs to t-shirts to all sorts. Fantastic Christmas gifts. We're getting close to Christmas now. Anybody who watches the channel gets a 10% discount with the code Podblast at discount at checkout. 10% checkout at discount.
You got to check out to get the discount, and you got to discount to get the checkout. You know.
I don't make the rules. Etsy makes the rules.
Yeah.
www.eldritchpodblast.co.uk for some sick merchandise there. Join our Discord if you haven't. It's full of beautiful squad blasters who run games in there and talk about TTRPGs and do watch parties and all sorts. Good, clean fun in it. So get yourselves in there. And really...
That's about it.
That's about it.
That's your fill. Goodbye.
Let's get into...
This is an extra episode just for us to be like, bye.
Buy all our We've swan twice.
No. Oh, no. Oh, my God. Not even the extra episode is free of the swearing, man.
Of the swear curse.
Oh, man. So, yeah. Let me... I guess for those who have just like found this video, or for anyone, this episode, we wanted to do like a full breakdown of our final story session of Jack's campaign, and our wrap-up session of Jack's campaign too. And we normally put these on the beginning of Monday's episodes, but there's obviously so much to go through.
Yeah.
We didn't want to have to like
try and just cram it in and
make the episode really long. So we just thought we'd do this.
Just do an extra episode.
For you, because you know, it's also for us. I think it's cathartic to talk about it after the fact, and
I've got to punch my mic. I think a lot of you have, in the last 7 months, have shown a large amount of interest in the campaign.
Yeah, definitely.
And we put up a poll, and there was overwhelming amounts of yes, please do another episode because we want to hear about the story ending. So,
it's our pleasure.
For truly. You and us.
Yeah, it is. It's
for everyone.
It's truly our pleasure.
This is for literally anyone. Show your boss this at work.
Yes. Show your dog this.
Show your grandparents this.
Yes.
Yes. Show your lawyers if you've got something going on like that.
Well, I know you have lawyers because I've spoken to them. That's all I'm saying about
This is for everyone. This is for everyone.
President
of the USA.
Yeah.
The Queen.
Yep.
I'm sure she'll watch this.
Yeah, I'm sure. The Queen? What Queen?
She's dead.
Oh, no.
The King.
Long live the patriarchy.
The royal family. The whole royal family will probably sit around the set and watch this, I imagine.
Yeah, so if you don't know, Jack is our forever DM. He runs our long-term campaigns in our group. This was his second full campaign.
Yeah.
This was 39 sessions in total. So
40 episodes total. With the wrap up.
It was 39 in total, I think. I think it was 40.
40 with the wrap up.
It was 40 with the wrap up. And so it was just under a year
Yeah.
and it was an amazing campaign.
It was 10 months of campaign.
Yeah. And you obviously only joined us, like 6 months into it. And even then, we didn't really give full campaign updates in the beginning of the podcast.
Yeah.
So I'd say you've heard the majority of the campaign, but not everything.
Yeah. You've heard, especially when the storyline hotted up.
Yeah, totally. You definitely joined us when the storyline and everything's got more. So I played my character, my moon druid.
My moon druid.
Rayla Moon Dancer.
Rayla Moon Druid. Moon Dancer.
Rayla Moon Druid.
Rayla Moon Druid. Moon Dancer.
That was the last name, Moon Druid.
Rayla Druid Moon Dancer.
Our friend Abby played the Red Priestess, or Mia Kala, as she became to be known.
Or TRP for short.
TRP
the
for
Red
short.
Priestess.
Matthew played Hermeta, and Josh played Igneous. And it was a really great campaign, and it was the first time we had 4 players. Abby was new to it, and it was great. We're actually working on getting together, all of us. We didn't know how we were going to be able to do it.
But we think we've found a way.
We found a way.
We think we found a way.
We think we found a way to do it where everyone can have a mic and we can have a bigger room, etc., etc. So if we do get that sorted, then you'll be able to hear from everyone, and maybe we'll go over like everyone's highlights of the campaign, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But that's not this.
That's not this. This is just breaking down the last 2 episodes.
This is the end. So I have my notebook here, as you can see. I am the resident note taker. Abby also takes notes, to be fair.
Abby
but, not as sprawling and insane as mine, I must be honest with you. I'm trying to think of where we last left you off,
We last left you off when we were coming down into the city of Asgard.
Yes.
We were on the carts on the way down at the city of Asgard.
Oh my God, is that where we left it off?
That's where
Jesus
we left it off,
Christ. So we got, and this is for the final story session. So we got into Asgard.
Yes.
We basically were like, well, Odin said we would know where he was when we got in, right? He'd referred to Angerboda being outside of the wall. So we were like, there's probably going to be some sort of wall. Granted, we had probably just scaled said wall.
Yes, you'd scaled the wall. You'd got into the carts. They were on like rope carts going down into the city. And the city was like fractured off from the land.
Yeah.
It was sort of at the edge of the world. And you got yourselves in the carts and you went down. Angerboda had already begun to lay waste to the city.
Yeah.
Like the city was under siege. Many buildings were on fire. There was many screams. There was many dead. And you just saw like spatterings of what you assumed was bad guys from this point.
Yes. Yeah.
You made your way down in the cart and you got out on the other side and you began to just make your way like into the city, trying to find anyone to help or anyone to fight.
Yeah. And we actually ended up getting like deeper into the city, and we're greeted by Angerboda. We can see her, and she is on a mission. She has just cleaved in twain a statue of Odin, fucking ripped it apart, and she's not focused on us at all.
No.
She is laser focused on getting to Odin, obviously. So she summons I think she summoned like a storm giant, maybe?
She summoned a fire giant and 2 Eremads.
Yes,
And
yes.
they weren't like, you could see that they weren't like the true things.
Yeah.
They were like the souls and the spirits
Yeah.
of everyone. They saw her like use the spark to summon these people, to summon everyone that she had consumed along the way.
Yeah.
To fight for her, and that's what was fighting the people throughout the city.
Yes. So she summoned them just to kind of keep us at bay a little bit, and I to be honest, I don't recall too much of that combat because
it wasn't a massively tough combat.
it was just to drain some resources, wasn't
For
it?
me.
Yeah.
for
And
me.
the only note I have here is silvery barbs on a nat 20. Change it to a natural 1.
Of course.
Of course. Because Josh has silvery barbs, obviously.
And I love it so much. Love it so much.
So
it's the greatest spell of all time.
He took a natural 20 on someone and changed it to a 1.
It was a fire giant.
I can't recall.
Which would have been,
I think it was
66 plus 11 slashing damage.
Wasn't it on Matthew as well?
I
On
don't know.
Hermeta? I
think
don't
it
recall,
was,
but
yeah.
turned into a natural 1, so nothing happened.
It was about to be a biggie.
It was about to be a biggie, and then it was a nothing.
Then it didn't even happen.
Silvery barbs. And then I just have 66 damage from a cantrip from Iggy. So
Yep.
I'm assuming this was his sorcerer's burst,
Yeah.
right? It's a 1D&D thing?
Yeah, so Sorcerer's Burst is 1D&D thing, but it's not very good in 1D&D.
Right.
So only the Sorcerer gets it.
Yep.
And it's an exploding dice, but it's a D6, and you get to choose the damage type.
Yeah.
You roll a D6. If it lands on a 6, you get to roll another D6. So that's kind of lame. because it doesn't do much damage and it only explodes in a 6. So
Yeah.
I tuned it up to a D10. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
basically
yeah.
an improved firebolt. He can choose the damage, and it explodes on a 9 and a 10.
Yeah,
not just a 10.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it exploded a few times.
It's kind of busted, but like it's
You know.
it's but
Yeah.
it's fun.
Yeah, it is fun.
It's
It is.
fun.
It's good, clean fun. And
Everyone
Josh,
gets extra abilities in my campaign,
Yeah.
and Josh just got a super awesome cantrip.
and Josh really enjoyed it. And to be
Yeah.
honest, we all really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it was
as
good
well,
when you see him roll 9, 9, 10, and he's already done fucking like 28 points of damage or something like that, and he gets to then roll 3 more D10s.
Yeah. So we get through the fight. Everything's fine. And we follow Angerboda, and we follow her to the Great Halls of Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
So we had actually previously scryed on Loki, I think. We had a magic item that let us scry once a day. We had a crystal ball. And we decided to scry on Loki just to see if maybe Angerboda had already gotten him. But we could see that he was looking through Odin's eyes, and we could see Odin was in the halls of Valhalla.
Mm-hmm.
So we basically get up to the Great Halls, and we can see the door. We can see the wolf on one side. We can see the... I don't know.
Yeah, so at the top of the city of Asgard, it lies a nicely crafted, very, very stereotypical like Viking longhouse.
Yeah.
But it's a little bit more grandiose.
Mm.
Like the craftsmanship that's gone into the house looks pretty immaculate.
Yeah.
And you can see through these large double doors, like peeking through all the cracks of the doors, down the middle, around the sides, just this like soft, beautiful, golden, radiant glow, like peeking through, and even through the keyholes. And you like when you put your hands on the knockers of the door, like it just like warmed up your hand.
And Jack had to be like, "Don't laugh."
Yeah, because I have to turn to Josh, and every time
don't laugh.
Every time I say doorknob or knockers of the door,
Josh
I have
is
to
like,
look at Josh and be like, "Don't make a booby or a dick joke." So like they knew what was beyond this. They knew that Valhalla, the halls of Valhalla, the great halls of Odin, were like beyond this door.
And that resonated with Hermeta a lot, because Hermeta's whole character was he lived by honor. He wanted to get into the halls of Valhalla. And there was a moment before we went in, he was hesitant, and he was like, I never thought I would be here, and I never thought I would be here in these circumstances. And we were all like, well, Priestess had said previously to him, like, once again, you're living out your destiny now. This is your destiny, so go in. Rayla was the first to open the doors just in case something ambushed us.
Yeah.
So I pushed the doors open, and you say, like, as they opened, like, this, like, warm golden light, like, came over us, and we felt, like, we could feel it. We could feel the shift in the atmosphere in here. And this is where I'm going to get.
So it was like a Dark Souls boss door. Like you can see that it's the boss door, and it was just like a doorway of golden light that sort of cascaded onto them, and it just like warmed them up and made them feel like good. There wasn't any like malicious feeling from the door.
Yeah.
But they couldn't see through it, so they had to step through. And as they stepped through, they were in a very long hallway. Not hallway, a great hall. At one end, you saw, up a few steps at the back of the room, a old man with no eye patch on, but a like crystal fake eye in one of his sockets. Sat there just feasting and drinking mead at the head of his table with his large staff like rested up against the chair. And he was looking down upon huge long tables on the left and right of this room. And around them were sat hundreds of people who had made their way to the halls of Valhalla. They were also like casting this sort of like
golden light. They were like incorporeal.
Yeah, incorporeal, like golden glow. And they were just like cheersing each other and drinking mead, and everything that you thought would be in the halls of Valhalla
was there.
They were with their friends. They were with their family. They were just drinking and having a good time, and there was no sort of like
animosity.
No, it was just them having a good time.
It was just good vibes. It was just good, nice vibes. And you described the first thing Rayla did when she got in was she looked for her sister, just in case, because we'd left her sister, the giants, the people of Vanaheim, all in Midgard to deal with the children. And Rayla's first instinct was to look for her.
Mm-hmm.
And she wasn't there, thankfully. Yeah. But you say, like, as I did look around, I saw Fenrir.
Yeah, it's slightly scaled down.
Yeah.
He is
Yeah.
very large.
Yeah.
But there was, Fenrir's wolf was there, sort of like at the end of one of the tables.
Yeah, and
Just
he was sat in front of a fireplace.
Yeah.
Chewing a bone, having a great time,
just having a good time at peace and at rest.
Yeah, and I think for me, see, I don't know why that messed me up so much, because it messed me up at the time as well. I think for me, in my brain, and this isn't spoilers for the end of it, because we'll get there, but that made me think, like, maybe everyone is redeemable in this. Maybe there's a chance where we can redeem, or we can even look towards the path of redemption for some of these people, because Fenris Wolf was evil in his life. He did evil things at the hand of his mother and at the hand of his father and Ragnarok, and the fact that he was still in the halls of Valhalla with his grandfather, felt very nice. And did we see someone else at this point? Did we see Thor at this point? You
saw him a little bit later on.
Yes.
But he was further down the room.
Yeah,
but he was there, because Thor had died at the hands of Angerboda.
Yeah.
Just after Angerboda had gotten the spark. So he was there, and Fenrir was there.
Yeah.
And Angerboda had a little speech.
Yep, Angerboda was there, by the way.
Can I get
Yeah,
that
I'm sure
speech?
you can. Angerboda had already breached the halls of Valhalla. She was in, and this was all happening as we'd kind of walked in and we were just taking in the scenery.
I've got to hear.
Yeah, go ahead.
So as you walked in, down each side of the room was just these incorporeal golden cast beings that were just having a fantastic time, as they were always promised in life in the halls of Valhalla. At the other end of the room was Odin, sat there, just drinking his mead and eating his food as he always does, and you guys passed through the door, and about 20 feet in front of you, on this end of the hall, was Angerboda. And you saw her pull down her hood. She's got that sort of really cool, braided hair with all these, tassels and baubles and bits and stuff in them, with that, beautiful, brown skin with all of the golden markings on it.
Yeah.
And she's very much a grown-up version of Angerboda in God of War 2, in God of War Ragnarok.
Okay.
That was the sort of I just love the way that model was, but I wanted her to be a fucking 45-year-old woman.
Yeah.
Who was aged slightly.
Yeah,
she looks dead cool.
Yeah.
But she stood there and she said out loud, and first thing that you guys heard was she said, I'll try and read this for you.
You gonna do the voice?
No.
Okay.
Father-in-law, I would like to say it's nice to finally see you again, but all of us know this would be a lie. This journey has been excruciatingly long, painful, and, in my humble opinion, unnecessary. Now I ask you this question for the final time, and I want you to think about the next words that come out of your mouth very carefully. If I do not get the answer I want, I will make sure you suffer the pain, the loss, and the heartache my family has felt. My people have felt 1,000 times over before I let you die. But please make no mistake here. If you do give me the answer I want, you will still die by my hand this day. I will just have an ounce of mercy on you. Where is my husband?
So, we had all been asking the question, because we knew where Loki was. We had pieced together, by the way. I'm not sure if I mentioned this. I'm sure we had. We had pieced together because Priestess had found that amulet on Odiga, and she had been transported to that dark place. We had come to the conclusion that Loki was being held in Odin's mind or Odin's eye. We learned through story beats that Odin had a glimpse into the future. That is where he had hung himself at the World Tree with Mimir, and he saw Ragnarok, and he saw it at the hands of his son, his wife, and his children.
His son, his daughter-in-law.
Yes, his daughter. Sorry, yes.
And their children.
Yeah.
So, Loki, Angerboda, Jormungandr, Fenrir, and Surtur.
Yeah. So he had seen this, and he had trapped Loki in hopes of stopping it.
He trapped Loki, and he had cast the 3 children out. So the timeline that you may not know is this. And I'll tell you now because it's all over.
Yeah.
So basically, Odin's fucking made a great deal with Vanaheim,
Yep.
and the giants are gone,
Yep.
and the human race is coming up, and he's going to bring the giants back, and he's going to like have the Vanaheimians come through, and they're all going to live on Midgard together. That's his grandiose plan, and it's nearly time that all of the things are going to come to, and he's going to invite the giants back and all that good stuff. And he goes and he tries to get a glimpse of the future. And basically, to see something that is impossible to see, you need to give something huge. So he basically goes through the pain of death by hanging himself to see a glimpse of the future. He sees Ragnarok, not this beautiful, tranquil place where everyone lives in harmony. And he's like, oh my fucking God, I need to do something about it.
Yeah.
He's like, I know that basically, before he'd gone, Loki and Angerboda had one child, which was Fenrir. When he'd gone, time had passed far more in the Fey realm or whatever. Like when you do realm travel, it passes quite frequently. So he saw 2 more children and he was like, fucking hell, I need to go back and stop them doing that.
Yeah.
He goes back, they've already had the 2 more children.
I see.
And he's like, it's too late.
It's too late. I need to do something about it.
So he takes Loki away in fear of more children.
Yeah.
And he takes the 3 children and casts them into Vanaheim.
Yeah.
Angerboda feigns her own death to basically say, oh, you've taken everything away from me. But really, all she was doing was finding her children,
scheming,
and scheming around it.
Yeah,
so that's the like course of what happened.
Yeah, right. Okay, yeah, that makes it much clearer in my mind. I don't know why we didn't ask you this.
No,
we normally have like a Q&A at the end of our wrap-up sessions, but we were all too upset to do that.
Yeah, we were all
so we didn't do that. But yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So we knew that as soon as we saw the crystal eye, we knew Loki was in the eye, right? So we were kind of stood there like,
Angerboda clearly doesn't know.
Ooh, and we were like, we cannot let her get to Odin because obviously she's going to kill him no matter what.
Yeah.
But she's then going to get the eye and she's going to get Loki.
Yeah.
So
a fight ensues. And it's for all of you at home who will know this and Margaret doesn't. It was basically like the Phantom Menace from Star Wars. So every time Odin the layer action came round, he'd crack his staff on the floor and he'd roll 2d4. And what he'd do is there was 4 gates, and the numbers that came up, I couldn't roll double. If I rolled double, I had to re-roll 1.
Yeah.
It was 1, 2, 3, and 4, and that meant you could have a combination of like 1 and 2,
yes.
2 and 3, 3 and 4, 1 and 4, whatever it was. And it was basically like every layer action he'd do that. And sometimes it would separate the party. Sometimes Angerboda would make more ground. Sometimes she wouldn't
make less ground.
As much,
So I took a picture. I'll put a picture up here of kind of what the map looked like. I don't think I took a very good picture because I was very upset at the time. But that was kind of the what we were running with, and the posts you can see on like the left and right sides of the tables. That was where the barriers would go up.
Yeah.
So we launch into a combat, and kind of before we get there, Rayla had always been on the side of, well, I don't blame Angerboda really for what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I think Rayla openly said if the same had happened. No,
it's okay. Can you just move the mirror so I can see the camera?
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
Sorry. Rayla was like, she had openly said, if this had happened to me, my family, my people, I would do the same.
Mm-hmm.
Rayla was very clear about that. She didn't necessarily think that what Angerboda was doing was... She knew it was wrong, but she knew that she would be selfish enough to do the same, and she would be vengeful enough to do the same. But when we met Frey, and we had found out that she had decimated the whole army of Vanaheim for her own cause, that's actually when Rayla was like, this has gone too far.
It's too much.
Obviously, it was all too much, right? That's what makes her the bad guy, because how she reacted to the situation. But that's when Rayla was like, Angerboda is being a hypocrite because she talks about her people being killed and oppressed and sent away. She promises a new life to someone in exactly the same way Odin did, and she took it away in a harsher way than Odin had done as well. So when we got into the halls and we saw Angerboda again and we were about to go into combat, Rayla said to her, I felt for you, and you had so many opportunities for it to not go like this, and I felt for you, but now I realize you're just a monster. And Angerboda said, if you want a fucking monster, I will give you a monster. And then we launch into combat.
No, she didn't say that. She said, if you want a monster, look to the head of this room.
True.
And she pointed up at Odin.
True.
And then, rounds went. She got blocked off from getting to Odin a few times. There was some very high level spells cast.
She opened up with a nat 20.
She did.
She opened up with a nat 20.
She did open up with a nat 20.
I don't know on who.
It was just a cantrip as a legendary action.
Yeah.
On Igneous, I think it may have been.
I don't recall.
I don't recall. Igneous, or it might have been Hemesta.
There was some counter spells to some counter spells. There was some counter spell slinging for the first time.
There was some counter spell slinging. But then there was some good. At one point, Josh cast a anti-life shell, or anti-magic shell. I can't remember.
Globe of invulnerability.
Globe of invulnerability.
Yeah.
Which was really fucking annoying.
My god.
Really fucking annoying for me.
So what a great shout.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what Globe of Invulnerability is, it means you can't have spells cast on you from inside the globe.
Yeah, they can't cast in. And because the thing is, they kept, there was the door here where they entered.
Yeah.
The battlefield.
Yeah.
And then Odin.
Yeah.
And her main priority was to go that way.
Yes.
And Josh and Abby just held at the back, and halfway up the hall, Josh cast it. And I just couldn't do anything to them.
Yeah.
So I was like, my quarry is up here.
Mm-hmm.
They're sitting behind. If they'd maybe moved ahead, I could move in.
Yeah,
try and get rid of the
yeah.
concentration, but they just stayed back. So basically, it was I palmed them off and just went for you and Humeta.
Yeah.
But then the last two gates went down.
And this whole time, we were kind of doing. We do a lot of stuff in between combat. We do a lot. I specifically do a lot of talking between combat to the bad guy because that's what I like to do.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of fucking slinging shit at Angerboda, a lot of talking back and forth between me and Angerboda.
Yeah. And
there was a lot of perception checks on Odin. And you had described Odin this whole time, because this was the first time we'd seen Odin in the flesh too, like our characters. Yeah. And you characterized him just as an old man who was sat at the end of the halls of Valhalla, and he looked weak and he looked tired, and it was sad.
Yeah,
it was sad, and he was watching and looking out into his inevitable demise in Angerboda.
And just sort of accepted it. He was like, I think for him at that point, it was like, I know I fucked up.
Yeah. And
I knew this day was coming.
And here it is.
And I'm, for reasons that you will find out later in this episode, he was weak at this point, really.
Yeah.
He was very weak.
Yeah.
And very old and very frail.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just, eating his last meal, sort of trying to delay with the gates, so you could maybe attempt, but sadly the gates went down.
Yeah.
And she used the bonus action to Misty Step.
Yeah.
And then she used the legendary action to also Misty Step.
Yeah.
Like basically after her turn, another person's turn, and she got there.
Yeah, she did.
She got to Odin.
She did.
And she picked him up by the throat out of his chair, and do you want to say what I'm going to do? You want me to do?
No, you go ahead.
So at this point, she picks him up out of his seat by like his throat, and she says for a final time, "Where is my husband?" And if you can remember a few sessions back, Abby gained a little bit of knowledge from when she saw Loki, but she couldn't ever tap into what it was.
She rolled a natural 1 on the charisma check.
Yes.
So when the first and last time she had seen Loki in the stream space, he cast something on her, and you described it as, it's like you remember something, but you don't know what.
Yeah, it's like you've gained a part of knowledge.
Yeah, but you have no idea what it is.
But you don't know how to access it.
And we'd been thinking about this the whole time, and she had to make another wisdom save.
No.
Did it just happen?
She picks him up by the throat, and she grabs him into the air, and she says to Odin, "Where is my husband?" And from the back of the room, behind one of the walls...
Oh my god. And you were like, you got up and you whispered something to Abby.
I got up to Abby, and I said to her in her ear, I said, you, right now, have to scream out loud, "I am in the eye. Get me out of the eye." And
she did.
She begins to like bang on the wall as like Angerboda turns
and
around.
All of us are like...
And Abby just screams out loud, "I'm in the eye. Get me out of the eye." And you see Angerboda begin to like pull like her hand away as like magical force or some bullshit.
Yeah.
Pulls the eye out the socket, the crystal eye, and she like grabs it in her hand, and
She looks at Abby and she's like, "Oh, well, thank
you."
you."
She says, "Thank you." And you see her just crush it in her hand. And as she crushes it, there's like a bright white light. And there stood, now on the battlefield, is Loki.
It's Loki.
And
it's only Loki.
As the beginning of this fight was happening, everyone was like, I was saying, "Oh, Angerboda looks rough. Angerboda looks rough." And everyone was like, "This is a bit easy."
I didn't take into consideration for a moment. I don't know why that Loki was going to join the fight. I think it's because I was like, I know he's in the eye. We need to stop her getting to the eye. Obviously, that was your plan the whole time. And what happened to Abby was he had basically, what did he do? He just implanted the knowledge.
The knowledge of where he was.
Yeah, and was able to tap into it when he needed to.
Odin had made it so it was impossible for those two to
communicate. Yeah.
That was just like some magic that he had.
Yeah.
Look, guys.
Sometimes
things don't need to be spells in the game.
Yeah.
They can't be used on just for like plot telling stuff. He had just made it so that they couldn't communicate ever, so she could never find out where he was.
Yeah.
So he made it so at the point where she needed to know, she said it through Abby.
Yeah, which was insane. That was a big scary plot twist that scared all of us. So then Loki appears. And the fight kind of changes at this point, right? The real fight has begun, let's be honest. And you describe it as Loki appears, he is like, well, hi, father. Hi, wife. You sort that out. I'll sort these out.
Yeah, and one thing that we forgot to say is at the beginning of the fight, you got to remember this is about 3 weeks ago. Now. At the beginning of the fight, Angerboda had taken the spark that had contained all the souls of all of the fucking dead giants and all of the people of Vanaheim that she consumed, and she'd just forced it into a chest.
Yeah.
And she'd like swelled with power.
Yeah.
And at this point, when Loki pops out and he is there and he says that, "Hello, father, hello, mother," and he says, "I'll take care of these. You take care of him for the final time. Let this be done with." Angerboda just begins to she grabs her other hand around Odin's neck and she just begins to scream.
Yeah, she just begins to scream.
She begins to just scream as she throttles him. And as she does, from her chest, out comes
like a torrent.
And it makes like a dome around them.
Yeah.
Like a 20-foot dome around Angerboda and Odin of just a
swirling
vortex
souls.
of souls.
Yeah.
Of giant souls, of Vanaheimian souls, of all of the people that she's consumed along the way to get to this point. She basically had unleashed them around Odin. And they were basically taken care of for now. And the group had to fight Loki.
Yeah, and you described it as she was screaming in anguish, in pain. It was really sad, actually. Yeah. Maybe it's sad now in hindsight.
Yeah, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
So the fight ensues with Loki, and he is...
Oh, he's a little rat. You know what? Let me tell you that for free. Loki's a little fucking rat.
He's a different kettle of fish.
Yeah, he is. He's different to anyone we've ever fought.
Yes.
So he's a trickster.
He's a bit of a...
Obviously.
He's a bit of a deceiver.
He's a bit of a trickster. And he was wily in the fact that he could go invisible.
Yeah.
We could kind of combat that because Josh is a shadow sorcerer.
And he has the
had his Hound of Ill Omen that can see invisibility. Mm-hmm. So we were kind of able to pinpoint him because of that. We also had our Lantern of Revealing, so we could get that out, and that would basically illuminate any invisible things around us. Yeah. But he also was fucking fast, so he could.
He was fast, and I'd homebrewed him, and what he could do was, as a free action on his turn, he could cast Disguise Self at will. He could then use a bonus action to switch places with somebody.
You can imagine how that went. So
if they did find him,
which we did,
if it got to his turn, he could disguise himself as one of the party and switch places.
God.
And he did do that.
And he did it twice. So the first time he did it with Igneous.
Yes.
So again, he could disguise himself and switch places with Igneous. So none of us above table knew which one it was. None of our characters knew which one it was. And it was a case where we obviously, we didn't want to take the risk of hurting our friends. That changes.
Yeah.
So we didn't want to take the risk of hurting our friends. And you know what? I can't fully remember what the situation was to get Igneous out of that situation.
Basically,
I think Igneous...
What he did was he used his free action, he used his bonus action on his turn to do those things, and then basically, at that point, he would basically wait till the round had gone by,
Yep.
till he'd either been revealed by an attack,
Yes.
or until you had attacked the other person, and then he would use a legendary action to hit. But because he hadn't been revealed, he was technically hidden from sight.
Yeah.
So that means he had advantage, which means he got busted sneak attack damage.
And I think what happened was I don't think any of us wanted to hurt him, so we kind of ended up doing like some other stuff around it.
And that's what he wanted. He was trying to waste your time.
Yeah, and he fucking was.
Yeah.
And Priestess ended up standing next to what she believed was Igneous. It wasn't Igneous.
It was not.
It was Loki, and he stabbed her, and he like nearly downed her. Like he really, really hurt her.
Yeah.
In fact, he did down her.
Yeah.
No, he did down her.
No, well,
do you want to know why?
First of all, Kimetto gets a sneak attack.
Yes.
On TRP.
No, oh my god.
Or Igneous.
No. Let me tell you the sequence of events.
Okay.
So, not only could Loki do all these things, he could also mimic exactly what the person was doing.
Saying,
like, perfect, exactly mimic them.
If someone's
right?
like, it's me, at the same time, he'd say the exact same thing.
No way to discern them.
No way.
At all. It was a 50-50 chance. So he had stabbed TRP, really hurt her, then he switched with her. Then he immediately, after that, disguised self, switched places with her, but we obviously didn't know if he was switching or not.
So, but this time he didn't switch. So the first time he did switch, and the second time he didn't switch. So they went for the one that were like, okay, he switched. So they shot that, but I was like, but I always told the player who I'd switched with.
Yeah, you whispered to them.
So it couldn't be like, well, that's actually you.
You would tell them, and then...
It was a gamble on my behalf, and it was sort of mind games, and I was trying to out-mind game them, and I did twice.
Well, so what happened? What happened? He had stabbed Priestess, really hurt her, switched with her. Hemeta was like, we need to do something. We can't have another round of a stalemate, because that's essentially what it was the first time.
And that's what he wanted.
While we were trying to work out what was going on. And he was like, I'm just going to take a 50-50 chance here. And he chose one, and he shot her. He got sneak attack. I'm sure he crit. He rolled extremely well.
Massive damage.
Extremely well.
Yeah.
He hit Priestess.
He hit Priestess. Yeah.
And downed her. But he was able to use his quiver as a bonus action
to heal her.
He has a quiver that has some options.
Yeah.
One of them is a heal.
Yeah.
So he immediately shoots her again and heals her.
Yeah.
But she is low. Real fucking low. So we're obviously all freaking the fuck out. And I was like, I'm going to try something. And I don't know if it's going to work, but I'm going to try something. So I cast Detect Thoughts on one of them, like the original Priestess. And I was like, can I just cast it? Because he won't know that I'm casting it to see what they're thinking. Because, I mean, that might be it. And you were like, that's a great idea, but someone counterspelled me, I think. Did someone counterspell me, or did it just not work? It didn't work for whatever reason.
He made a deception check.
Oh my god, he made a deception check.
Yeah.
And he obviously had really high deception.
And you tried to read his thoughts to be like, oh, is this one Loki or is this one Priestess?
I couldn't discern
and
it.
you couldn't discern it because his deception check was too great.
Yep. And then...
as the fight began to go on, you turned to King Frey.
I turned to King Frey and I said, she's in there. Finish it. Because we was getting to the point where we were like, is time ticking for Odin? Like, is there a timer on if we stay out here and fuck around with Loki like that he's obviously trying to do to us, right? Is something going to happen to Odin? So we all were too scared to go. So we had King Frey, so Rayla just said to him, like, go and save the All-Father.
Yeah.
And King Frey went in. Another round passes.
There was a moment where Tiapi was down on the ground and Hemeta hadn't been able to heal her at a point or something like that. And Loki fell onto the ground and disguised himself as Tiapi's dead body. So they couldn't get Tiapi up without potentially healing Loki. So Josh had a really fantastic idea. Oh my god.
And like the little rat to lay there pretending to be...
Well, he was...
No, of course, it was ingenious.
That was the move that sort of was like...
Oh shit.
He's wasting our time.
Yeah, like oh shit, this is him fucking around with us.
He's wasting our time. He's not attempting to kill us.
He's fucking with us.
He is slowly but surely killing us because he's doing so much damage.
That's not the main reason that he's holding us back.
So Josh went over and he was like, I can't do anything without potentially heal. So he was just like, I'm going to twin spell a cure wounds because He took magic initiative at
Yeah.
the beginning of the game so he could get cure wounds. And he twin spelled a heal on both of them. So TRP wouldn't lose any more death saves.
Loki was healed, but
he was only healed a little bit.
And it was absolutely so worth getting Priestess up.
Mm-hmm.
And when Loki was revealed and brought back up, he watched King Frey go in, and he was like, "Oh, yeah, very good. Yeah, you go in there. You're playing into our plan perfectly."
Mm-hmm.
And Rayla was like, "I think he's double bluffing me. I think he's fucking with me here."
Yeah.
And Rayla was like, as a player, I was like, it might be the wrong decision to go in.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. But this guy's fucking with us. Is he saying it to be like, to rub salt into the wounds, or is he double bluffing? And I was like, if anyone can go into the globe and potentially survive it, it's Rayla out of everyone. So Rayla was like, I need to make sure King Frey is okay.
Mm-hmm.
Deal with him. I'm going. Rayla runs. She goes she dashes everything, gets straight into the globe. She enters, and then we cut away from me. That was my turn in combat, and then another round goes.
As you entered, though, there was a couple of insight checks on Loki.
Yeah.
And it turns out when Rayla had entered the globe of souls, he began to show slight concern.
He was pissed off about it.
Yeah, he was like,
Fuck.
Fuck.
So everyone was like,
So he went invisible and walked sort of close to the globe of souls and was just waiting for others to try and get in so he could stab them.
Yeah, but we had left the Lantern of Revealing with them.
Yeah, but Yameta went first and he didn't have the Lantern of Revealing, but he gets within 10 feet. And I'm go, okay, I stab you. And he says, no, you don't. I'm like, what the fuck do you mean, no, I don't?
Blindsight, bitch!
With my scout thing, I have blindsight within 10 feet. And I was like...
Ooh, good thing. Listen, Matthew, I love you dearly. You don't remember a single thing ever.
Finally, he remembers
the fact
this.
You remembered you had blindsight in that moment. Never used it before.
Nope. But basically... Loki didn't have a huge amount of health.
No.
Like, that wasn't his thing.
No.
His whole point was he would rarely get hit.
Yeah.
But he'd taken a bit of damage at this point, and then Matthew reveals him 10 feet away as he's making his way, and then he fucking...
Igneous got the final blow.
He takes a massive hit, and then Igneous comes over and deals the final blow.
Igneous deals the final blow to him.
Loki, yeah.
Yeah, and kills Loki.
Yeah.
I also have some notes here. Sorry, I should have been reading my notes. I have a note saying that TRP rolled 2 natural 20s with a disadvantage on something.
With a disadvantage.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
The detect thoughts, the DC was 32 and I rolled a natural 1.
I rolled he had a plus 14 to deception.
Yeah.
And I think I rolled
so I was
18
close.
Or something.
Yeah, I was real close. I was real close. So as Loki falls, only thing left in the room is the globe. Mm-hmm. So you kind of cut to me as me and King Frey are the only ones in there. And I'm like, I'm going to find King Frey. I'm going to make sure that he's okay. And I'm like trudging through these souls and I find him. I'm in my wolf form. So I like stand over him and protect him. And my friends follow suit. They realize that, this is probably the right thing to do. And they come in.
Yeah. But I said, you were the one that experiences all of this first. I told you.
Yeah.
And
go ahead. Yeah.
Like as you go through, like as you enter, it's like a wash of cold over you. And you begin to just have all of these feelings. And it was basically the feelings of everyone that had ever been wronged by Odin, because that's what she had unleashed.
Yeah.
So you felt the promise of a marriage between two sets of gods, the Asgardian gods and the
Vanaheimian?
It's not
Vanaheimian.
Basically, there's another set of gods, which is what King Frey is. It
the Vanaheimian.
It's not the Vanaheimian. And like the truce between those two, and the connection between marriage of those two, and the promise of the Vanaheim people being able to like come through to Midgard, and there being like open access, like portals between the two, and like the thoughts of like hope and opportunity that would bring, and then you begin to have your land sapped from you, and all the feelings of betrayal and like lost hope, and then it turns to like anger and frustration, and then it's like turns onto the giants and their story, and it's
and we had actually encountered something similar with the giants before.
Mm.
When we had first gone to Jotunheim, there was like the Aurora Borealis, and we had come into contact with some spirits there, just like lost spirits of giants that were floating around. And me and Hameta, because we had giant blood in us, we had felt these feelings before. The feeling of like, I want to go home and I'm lost and it's cold.
Yeah.
And we felt it all over again, but like a 1,000-fold.
Yeah. Then obviously like a giant soul passes through each of you and you begin to feel like the scared, the unfairness of being pushed out of your home into Jotunheim. And you have a small amount of hope that it will change as promised, but then that hope dwindles and then you lose hope. And then it turns to aggression as AE has sort of rallied them up. And then it's like, it's a newfound hope, but it's a hope fueled on hatred.
Yeah.
And you get all of these feelings of every single person that like Odin has wronged. And then you begin to get Angerboda's feelings as well.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's, all of her feelings towards Odin and what he's done to her.
Yeah, and her children and her husband.
Children and her husband, and taken everything from her. And now she's at this moment. And then you find King Frey, and then the other three walk in.
Yeah, and everyone feels this, you know. It's not just me and King Frey. Everyone who walks in.
Yeah.
And you made a big point to say you all feel this. You feel
all of these feelings.
The wrongs that Odin has brought on everyone. And we push further and further in. And we see at the epicenter of it, it's Angerboda strangling Odin.
Mm-hmm. And like she's shrunken down slightly to a sort of normal size as all of these souls have come out of her. Her eyes are just like this bluish tint, like cloudy white, as she's just screaming in like sorrow and anguish as she's trying to finish what she came here to do, which is killing Odin.
Yeah.
And she's like...
and she's like weak from it too.
Yeah. She knows that this is probably going to be her last act.
Yeah.
But she's going to complete what she thinks is right.
Yeah.
And then it'll be left down to the children that are left to like carry on whatever she wanted that to be.
Yeah.
And I turn to the group.
Well, first of all, does Odin say it to us first or after?
After. No, I think
says it after.
Does he?
Yeah.
I'll say it now. He turns to them as he knows that he's sort of like on the cusp.
He knows that she's
death.
going to kill him.
She's going to kill him unless something happens. And he turns to you and he says, "Whatever happens here, make sure my dream is taken care of."
Yeah, finish my dream.
Finish my dream.
Finish my dream.
Like unite the Isles, unite everyone, make sure that everyone lives in harmony. I may have not done it the correct way and I fucked up on that, but like what I wanted was probably the right thing.
Yeah.
So please finish that.
Yeah.
And I turn to the group and I say, okay.
You pull it, like, we're above table
We're above table now. And I'm like, it's basically the fucking defining moment of the campaign.
Yeah.
I say, you can let her kill him and she's going to die anyway. Or do you want to pull her off? She will die.
But let Odin live. Like... It's such a huge loaded question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like, especially because we know that Odin had done these things, but we also knew that Angerboda had done these things. And yes, Angerboda, this was her final act, but should it have been Odin's? And I think that's something that the whole campaign, once we kind of, really got into the story and understood what was going on, was should Odin pay for what he's done? Because even though he didn't mean to, he still tried to play God with people's lives without them asking. And then he let them suffer for whatever reason. But then Angerboda has killed thousands, hundreds of thousands. Angerboda is on a rampage of hate. She has betrayed people herself. She's become Odin in a way, in a worse way. So we went round the table one by one. I think Matthew was the first to say, he was like, Hameta would definitely pull Angerboda off. He believes what Angerboda has done is wrong, and he wants to save the Allfather. Priestess, Abby, said, Priestess has learnt a lot recently about forgiveness. She was like, it's not even necessarily forgiveness, but she can look at the situation in front of her and realize that Odin should live. So she would choose to pull Angerboda off too.
Mm-hmm.
Josh said the same thing. Josh said.
Josh was sort of on the fence for a little bit. I think,
Josh was on the fence.
But then he sort of listened and he was like, I think I agree with you guys.
It was me and Josh who were on the fence,
Yeah.
definitely. And me and Josh had to talk about it. We were like, at first, I was like, I don't know if Rayla would. I think Rayla would let it all be over and just stop. But, Angerboda is going to die anyway. And it was Abby saying Priestess has learnt about forgiveness. I was like, yeah, Rayla would too. Rayla has also learnt about forgiveness and redemption. And Angerboda has done bad things. And Odin, I said it's the intent. Angerboda did it with malice. Odin did it with hope, but fucked up. And I think me and Josh talked about it. And we all came to the consensus that we were going to pull Angerboda off.
Mm-hmm. And you sort of gathered round her and like grabbed onto her.
And it wasn't we rip her away and we beat her head in. It was we gently put our hands on her and removed her. And
you could see her like saying like
she was begging. She was
like, please, like, let me do this. This is what I am meant to do.
Mm-hmm.
This is the only thing that like my life has like boiled down to, sort of thing. As she was like screaming no, but after like a few pulls, like you pulled her off, and again we had a flash of light, and then you 5 with King Frey.
King Frey was there.
King Frey was there.
And Hildisvini.
His ball.
His ball.
You were Hildisvini wasn't there, but
no, he was.
You five were shifted in time.
Yeah.
To a place that you had not long walked through, the fields of Asgard, the golden grass, the golden hour sun, and you sort of looked around a little bit, and then you saw Angerboda sat in the long grass. She was just like picking bits of the grass and playing with it. She was about 30 feet away, looking at a younger Loki and a younger 3 of her children playing and just frolicking around in the golden grass as she watches from a distance.
And Rayla doesn't hesitate. Rayla just goes up to her and sits down next to her. And Rayla puts her hand on her knee. And she just says, why did you do this? How did it come to this? Look at them and tell me why you did this.
And she said that she got so caught up in all of it that she lost sight of what she was truly fighting for. And you were like, what was it that you were truly fighting for? And she like looked from you back out, her 3 children and a husband, and she said them.
And Rayla, in this moment, sat with Angerboda, gently just said, I realize now this isn't a game of monsters fighting monsters. It's about monsters finding forgiveness.
And she said thank you. And through like a small amount of back and forth, you all heard the creak of a large door. And as you all turned and looked, no great halls, but just a set of large double doors. And one had opened up, and it was giving out a very large golden warm light. And out from that door stepped Odin. And he offered his hand out to Angerboda. Then she turned to you and said thank you for one last time.
We all said thank you.
And what did you say to her?
Don't look back.
You don't need to look back.
You don't need to look back. Just go.
And she stood up and she walked over. And these two nemesis, these two people who hate each other on a fundamental level, he had forgiven her for everything, and she had forgiven him.
Like in that moment.
Yeah. And she took his hand, and she turned around and she looked at the group. She did look back, and she just gave a smile and a nod as she was accepted into the halls of Valhalla. The door closed, and as the door closed, you all had like come back into the halls of Valhalla proper. And as you looked off to the side, you saw sat there at the tables, incorporeal, in the golden light, souls that had passed on into a happier time. You saw Thor and Loki, two brothers, sat together. Loki sat with his wife, and they had one of their children there in Fenrir. As they were sharing drinks and eating large plates of food, all of their souls were finally at rest. And that's where we ended that episode. That's where the story came to a close.
What's that about? What's that all about? What's the point in all of that? Oh, man. And
like Margaret said at the beginning, I'll just make a chapter, end of final session. As Margaret had said, like a theme that she thought, and she very, very poignantly thought very early on, when she came into the halls of Valhalla and saw Fenrir, somebody who could potentially never be forgiven, was the whole point was when you die, it's almost like your slate is wiped clean.
Yeah, it's like you shed all the hate.
You shed all the hate, you shed all the baggage, you shed all stuff. Like, there is no fucking heaven and hell. There is no fucking God to judge. There is no fucking bullshit of wrong because you didn't believe in this. It's just, when you die, it's gone. Like, the slate is wiped clean. And the fact that you saw Fenrir there.
That's what made me think, like, is this going to end the way we think it is? Is this, you know, as you can tell, Jack's campaigns are never about, this big evil person that we have to kill, and we kill the bad person and we're the heroes. You know, it's always far more nuanced than that. I mean,
and, you know...
And we knew it was going to be.
Like, the thing is, like, I know that that's not for everyone.
No, of course
like,
not.
A lot of people will be like, no, bad guy is bad.
Yeah,
and, like,
course,
that's fine if that's the game, but, like, I couldn't personally think of anything more boring to run. So, you know, like, it was the whole way through. It's like, is Odin a bad guy? And it's like, no, Odin's not a bad guy. And then you were like, is Angerboda a bad guy? But then she just
pushed it too far. She just
walked the line so finely and then just stepped over it, like, sort of at the end for a lot of you.
And it's that typical thing of, like, you live long enough to see yourself become the bad guy.
Yeah, exactly.
And she had become everything she hated in Odin.
She did exactly it.
She was so obviously, like, twisted and corrupted and, like, engrossed in this hate and this vengeance. And
she just forgot that was the point, and that was the point of the field bit, was like she had just completely forgotten what she was doing it for.
And she did it because she loved her husband and her children. And I love a bit of redemption. Don't get me wrong, I do. And I think that ending was so perfect compared, like, it was so perfect for the whole story, and it was a perfect ending for her.
Yeah.
And I've said it the whole time. I've really always felt for Angerboda. I never thought, obviously what she was doing was wrong, but I felt for her, and Rayla specifically felt for her.
Yeah.
And to know that at the end of the day, the slate is clean, her spirit's at rest, whatever was going on between her and Odin, it's over. Like, just to know it's over.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it was a perfect way to end it, and you did it perfectly.
Thank you.
You encapsulated, I think, all the feelings that you wanted us to feel, and all the themes of, God, who's right, who's wrong, to turn to us and say, like, give us the choice. Who are you? What are you gonna do?
Because it was just such a story of, like, everyone's a bad guy, but everyone's sort of not the bad guy because they all have a reason to do it. And it was basically like, I've walked you through this journey. I've given you the entire information. It's like, it's up to you.
Yeah.
Like, you finish this story how you want.
Yeah.
Like, is she worth saving?
Yeah.
Like, is he worth saving? Like, what can you, like, you tell me?
Yeah. And I think she was saved. I think that was the biggest mercy we could have done was pull her off.
Yeah, put her out of her misery.
Because she was going to die regardless. Pull her off. Stop her. Give her that chance. And I think it was a perfect ending. It was a perfect ending. I'm only speaking for myself, but I know that the rest of the group thought it was a perfect ending too. And how could you not think so? How could you not think so?
I came away very happy because it ended how I wanted it to end, and I don't know, just it was, to me, like, giving you the choice and seeing that, like, because it was that, like, was she bad? Yes, she was in the end, but maybe only because she was driven to that point and she just maybe, like, lost sight of what she wanted. And, like, sometimes, fucking bad guys can have a fucking happy ending too. Yes, she's dead, but at least, like, she's at peace now.
Yeah.
And she's with the people that she loves.
Yeah.
And so I was really happy with how it ended.
So were we. We all had a cry. We all had a hug. Well, Abby doesn't like physical touch, so we hugged across the room and wished and said, "We're hugging you too, Abby."
Yeah.
We all had a big cry. Did you cry?
I think so.
Everyone had a bit of a cry.
Everyone had a bit of a cry.
Then we left it there.
We left it there.
That
we
was
picked up for the next week for the wrap up.
Yeah, that was the final story session. That was how your story concluded. So then we had to do the wrap up of our character's story.
Yes. It was, we started off obviously still in the halls of Valhalla.
Yep.
And
so this is now the wrap up. So we're talking from now on. We're talking about
the wrap up.
The characters' stories.
Story's over. Story's finished. Story's done.
Yeah.
We started in the halls of Valhalla, and you talked to Odin.
Yeah. We, for us, it had been a week. For our characters, it had been no time at all. So we had our chance to talk to Odin, and a lot of the questions were, what went wrong?
What the fuck happened?
Why did you do this?
Yeah.
Were you trying to stop it? Do you think you caused it? And it was just a lot of talking to Odin and getting the final story from his perspective, because that was the only perspective we were missing.
Yeah, and the whole point of, like, did I try and stop it and then make it happen?
Yeah.
Or did I actually delay it, and were we able to stop it on the whole?
Yeah.
Like, we'll never
never know.
But, lessons can be learned by, like, not dabbling in the future. And that's a lesson that he had learned.
And I think the overall conversation was, Odin was like, I have made mistakes. I have messed up. And I realize it is not my place to step in and try to manage this anymore. My involvement made everything worse. So he was like, but you've proven that you are strong, you are capable, you are intelligent, you're empathetic, you're kind. Maybe you can lead.
And he said, I can help from a distance.
Yeah.
And, like, you can call on me for... Basically, you wanted to finish his plan.
Yeah.
You wanted to have the giants, have the people of Vanaheim, and have everyone of Midgard be able to coexist.
Yeah, because, at this point, we had all seen the fallout of it. We had seen the betrayal and the hatred, but we had also seen the coming together of people. We had seen Hrungnir rally the giants to work with us. We had seen King Frey. We were with King Frey. Like, we had seen that we were all the same, and our characters wanted to unify everyone. So we agreed. We said that's exactly what we're going to do.
And he said, if you're going to do it, then you need to pay a visit to Tyr.
Yeah.
Because he has something for you that he no longer needs.
Yes.
That I gave to him.
Yes.
And he basically explained, when all of the gods left to escape Ragnarok, they'd left Tyr there to hold the chains of the three. And he had given up a large amount of his power to Tyr. That's why he was so old, and that's why he was so frail.
Yeah.
Because he gave so much to try and stop it from afar. And he said, I don't want it back.
Yeah. I don't need it.
I want to give it to you
Yeah.
to complete this task that is ahead of all of us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, you caught up with him. You asked about some NPCs and
Yeah,
stuff like that.
yeah. We were like, "Can you? Is this person here? Has anyone died yet?
Has anyone died yet?
Anyone died?
What about this person?
Yeah, and
are they a good person?
We actually we sat at the end of the hall with him and we had a meal with him, and King Frey refused to come up. But Rayla went over and took his hand and was like, "You promised that you would hear him out.
Yeah.
So please come and hear him out."
Yeah.
And he did. He came over.
Mm-hmm.
They exchanged some words. It was very obviously skeptical from King Frey's side, obviously.
Yeah, and he did make a very big point to like take his time to apologize to King Frey.
Yes, yeah.
Because his sister, King Frey's sister, Freya, was Queen of Vanaheim, and basically when she left, she was going to come back, and there was going to be lots of correspondence between the two.
She left, married Odin, and left,
and then she hadn't come back, and had left him to be king, and he was a little young, and sort of didn't make the best choices as leader.
Mm-hmm.
He had actually messaged Odin had messaged King Frey towards the end of the meal, I think, if you remember.
Yes.
And it was about his sister.
Yes.
And he was like, "She's not here right now because I didn't want her to be here.
I didn't want her to be in this.
But I'll bring her to you.
Yeah.
Soon.
Yeah.
Like after all this happened.
Yeah. Yeah. And we finished up the conversations with Odin. We promised we would try and do his work to the best of our abilities.
Yeah.
And we left, and as we left, Rayla took one last look, and she looked once again over Angerboda and all of them, and kind of gave them a farewell nod. They couldn't perceive us, but Rayla could perceive them, so she kind of gave a final cast over, and then we left.
Yeah.
And that kind of launched. So the wrap up was kind of in sections, right? Because there was obviously things we personally wanted to do for our characters' backstories to finish them, and then there was obviously the bits of the story that we wanted to finish up.
Yeah. So they went back down. Odin said, "I'll teleport you wherever you want." Yeah. Went to Scalanes, which was where the fight was happening between Jormungandr Surtur and they were basically protecting the Bifrost from the oncoming fight, which was Hrungnir, Yggdrasil, your sister, Revna, all of the armies that you had accrued and marched on there to sort of let you slip through the back way.
Yes.
And so basically we went and saw the fallout of that fight.
Yeah, and it Scalanes was destroyed. Scalanes was the capital of Midgard.
Of Midgard.
And it was destroyed. It was absolutely run to the ground, obviously, because that's what war does. And it was sad. Obviously, it was sad seeing how many people had died, how many homes were destroyed, the whole city, and you were like, it's going to take years and years and years for this city to return to even a semblance of what it once was. But that's what our characters were there for. And we met up with Tyr.
You finally met Tyr.
We finally met Tyr, the man of the hour.
The man of the
hour.
That
we never met, that was such a huge part in the beginning that we just never met. The story just kind of never took us there for whatever reason.
It was there for you to take, but at the same time, I didn't want to take you there just for the sake of taking you there.
Of course.
You knew the deal with him, and you knew everything that was happening with him, but you'd sent NPCs to deal with it while you fought Nidhogg, and just he'd never caught up to where you were until this point.
Yes.
So you saw him, and he had a particular beautiful radiant glow.
Yep. He does a skincare routine.
Yeah, and he has introduced himself to you all, and he then gave back what Odin had given to him.
Yeah.
But he gave it to Hymeta.
Yes.
Because obviously Hymeta's story took a large turn when he was supposed to get the spark from Hrungnir's hammer, which is what Odin left him to allow them to live in Jotunheim, a very tough place to live. And Hymeta felt like he had failed because Angerboda beat him to it.
Yeah.
So basically, he got a second chance of getting the spark.
Yeah.
So he gave up that power. He shrunk down to a slightly normal size, and he didn't have that radiant glow anymore. As he gave everything that Odin and the other gods had gave him. To Hymeta.
Yeah. Yeah. Rightly so. I think that was a nice full circle moment. Hymeta promised he would get it back, and then
he has.
In the end, it was handed to him.
Yeah.
And that was really nice. It was really nice that Hermeta got it. And Tia was like, because we were like, what about the other two children of Loki?
Yeah.
What about Surtur and Jormungandr? What are they going to do now? Are they going to give up the ghost? Were they only fighting because their mother set them up to do it? Are they going to be enraged now that their mother's dead?
Yeah.
Their father's dead. They know their brother's dead. So, all those thoughts were swimming around. And Tia was like, we have Surtur. We have the prisoner and she's chained up. And Rayla was like, she is not a prisoner. That is one thing she is not, and it's not a prisoner. We will talk to her, and if she wishes us ill intent, we will kill her, but she's not a prisoner. So we go to talk to Surtur. Hermeta and Priestess are like, we will hang back here. Igneous and Rayla, the people with the high charisma, you can go.
You can get in there.
Well, at first they were like, Rayla, you go. And I was like, Igneous,
can you
you're coming with me too.
So they went in and Surtur was bound by chains, and like the chains were like red hot as they like left the body and then turned back to like the normal steel color as they buried themselves into the ground. Like ways away, she is huge. She is just a ginormous fire giant. And she has been defeated and been captured, and she was sort of at this point where you posed her a few options.
Yeah, well, Rayla just went over and she just said, it's over. It's over. And what's your intentions now? And Surtur was very much like, she was still very much like, I can't trust you, obviously. And there was a bit of a back and forth, and she was like, Rayla was like, we'll let you go. Like, you can go, but you just can't like wreak havoc on the people of Midgard. It is over.
Yeah.
And Rayla was like, there's a place for you here if you so wish it. That Hrungnir is here. The giants are here. You're welcome. And Surtur said she will not hurt the people of Midgard. Her only condition was she returns to Jotunheim alone, and she is left. No one bothers her. No one goes near her. She has her time to process what happened. And Igneous was like, if that is what will give you peace, then yes, of course, you can go back to Jotunheim.
And she said, she looked to Hrungnir, who was obviously the leader of the giants, and she said, when I'm ready, you come. And he said, and you bring her. And he pointed at you. And he was like, and that is only when I am ready.
Yeah.
And she did that, and she got up, and obviously she was buried in the mountains of Jotunheim. That's where Odin had left her to die, basically.
Yeah.
And she went back there, and she said, sometimes, basically, your prison becomes your home. Yeah. And that's the only thing that I can call home right now. So she went back to the mountains of Jotunheim to live there.
Yeah, well, and Rayla was like, it doesn't have to be a prison. There is no cell that needs to hold you. You are welcome here. And Surtur was like, she said something like, but how do I know I can control myself? How do I know I won't hurt you? And Rayla was like, you don't know. And if there's anyone who knows what that feeling is like, it's me. And when you are ready, I will come to you and I will help you, because I know how to harness control and I will help. And Surtur agreed.
Yeah. So Surtur had gone, and turns out Jormungandr had fled. How was that?
Well, yeah, that's it. No sign of Jormungandr at all. I reckon that could potentially be another campaign. That could definitely be another one-shot thing. Who knows? Jormungandr, did you say he flew into the sky and was never seen again?
Yeah. I got knocked the mic off.
Sorry, I'm sure I left that in. I'm sure you saw that. Sorry.
So yes,
Jormungandr flew into the sky, never seen again.
Never seen again.
Who knows what that's going to be? Who knows what's going to become of that? To be honest, who knows?
But these are the consequences of your actions. You didn't take that fight, and because you didn't take that fight,
one of them got away.
Yeah. So then we basically talked about what we wanted to do with the land.
Yes.
Like, how were we going to enact Odin's plan at this point?
Yeah.
And there was many fantastic things.
And I think Hermeta was spearheading all of it, really.
Yeah.
Hermeta really wanted to make like the rest of his life goal to do this.
Yeah.
And he had so many ideas.
Yeah.
There was obviously portals that were opened up across all the major cities
Yeah.
from when Angerboda infiltrated with the people from Vanaheim.
And we decided to just keep those open.
Yeah,
we
keep them
moved
open.
them to a slightly better place than in like fucking in King Ingvar's house and things like that. So we moved the portals to like easier to access places.
Yeah.
And left them like not like unguarded, but there was like less guard presence. It was more like
it was more like
we want you to come through to Vanaheim to see how beautiful it is and things like that.
Because Vanaheim is basically like the equivalent of the Feywild, right?
Yeah.
And we wanted to be like, you can come and go as much as you want. There's no restrictions. You don't have to pay. You can just go, and if you want to settle in Vanaheim, you can. There's no reason to why you couldn't. So we started to incorporate like giant homes into Vanaheim. We also started to incorporate giant living in Midgard too. We had previously been, and I think this is before we started doing campaign updates to you, we had previously come across somewhere called the Harista Pass, which was an old giant settlement.
The Harista Pass was where Josh was from. They just called it Jotunheim, the Jotnar Pass.
The Jotnar Pass.
Giants
That's
are
it.
also referred to as
The Jotnar.
the Jotnar.
Yeah.
So it was just a abandoned giant settlement from many moons ago before they had been shooed out. And that was there. So they integrated. They didn't just want them to live separate from people.
Yeah. We integrated like human homes into the giant homes, and we integrated giant homes into the human homes. We very much wanted it to be like a cohabitation.
Yeah.
But if giants wanted their space,
they could have it.
They could have it.
Yeah.
But they didn't have to if they didn't want to.
Yes.
And one really big thing that Rayla wanted to stop the mining of Galder.
Yes.
I think Galder, again, was another thing we talked about prior to campaign updates here.
Yeah. So Galder, basically, when all of the... When giants got exiled, a number of them tried to come back over the mountains of Jotunheim and back into Midgard, and they were basically struck down, and their souls crystallized in the mountains of Jotunheim, and you could use a soul as like a magical focus, as like something to create magical
like an
items.
Amplifier.
It was like an amplifier.
Magic. Yeah. And in the beginning of the campaign, obviously we were all like, "Oh, Galder's great. Oh, it's something that we mine.
We love it. We love Galder.
We
Galder's a resource.
Galder's great. We can use it to do magic stuff."
Yeah.
And then as the campaign went on, and we obviously learnt about the mountains of Jotunheim, the mountains of Jotunheim were basically just built up bodies of giants that had been struck down. And that's when we realized what Galder was. And when we went through the whole Jotunheim arc was when we really realized exactly Galder was just the souls of giants.
So we really put in a rule and a law to like no longer
farm Galder.
it. And if any was found, you were going to set Igneous off because he was going back to Stockvagen, a very magical place full of lots of wizards. To figure out basically, first of all, giants. What do you want to do with them?
Yes. Yeah.
And
what did the giants want to do? And the giants agreed. They said, we don't want the souls of our ancestors used as like a fucking magical focus.
There was an effort to try and find out how to release the souls.
Yes. Basically, Igneous, and we'll kind of get onto that when we finish up his character arc. Igneous joined Stockvagen. It's like an academy of very smart, intelligent wizards, and they were tasked with find a way to release the souls from the Galder.
Yeah.
But until then, we would return the Galder to the giants. They would
do with it.
They would do it what they wanted, basically. And Rayla thought that was only right, and it's a sign of good faith, right?
Yes.
And that's what Rayla put in.
We had to stop for the dog.
Sorry.
So there was the portals. There was also like just the rebuilding effort of all of the places that had been like damaged by the war, which Hermeta had used the spark for. He'd stayed in Scalanes to like help rebuild.
Yeah.
So he did that. We stopped the mining of Galder. If we did find it, we found a respectable way to do it. We got portals open to everyone and basically like advertised it to be like come and go as you please between the two.
Yeah.
and set up home there, set up home here, and you'd gone through. Odin, when you were with him, took out the thing that was siphoning the life from Vanaheim.
Yes.
And you went through and returned Vanaheim to a bit of its former glory as well.
Yeah, and we kind of played out like the next like year of the campaign was like this rebuilding effort from all of us.
Yeah.
We all stayed together. We all worked together to try and get this up. King Frey remained the king of Vanaheim, but his presence was very much had in Midgard. That we said that King Ingvar and all of them, they would regularly mingle with each other. We set Dagmar up as like the spokesperson for the giants because Dagmar loves giants.
Big giant fan. Big stan of the giants.
Big giant fan. And we had Hrungnir and Yggvilf with Dagmar. We said it's canon that Dagmar and Yggvilf got together.
Yeah.
Don't know how that works, but they did.
It happens.
That's what we said.
That's
We're
fine.
saying they got together.
And then we went on to individual endings.
Yes.
So we started with Priestess.
Yep.
And Abby's was very...
Abby's was exactly what you think it is.
Abby's was very TRP.
Abby's was so TRP. So, obviously, Abby's endgame changed a lot because of the loss of Vinriel.
Yeah.
Vinriel was kind of like a pillar
like
in
a
what...
crutch in what she was going to do.
In what her endgame looked for her. So, obviously, without Vinriel, she didn't really have the ending I think she thought, but the good thing is we can come back to that in a one shot and get that for her.
Yeah.
So when we had left Odin had actually given her the gift to be able to quell thirst like multiple times
free
a day.
once per day.
Yeah. So Abby going into this was like, I'm going to have a really happy, nice, jaunty ending so no one can cry about it.
Yeah. And everyone else was like, good for you.
Good for you, but
me.
but me.
So Abby had gone back to Gotland.
Yes.
And obviously all
the vampires were still underground.
Still underneath. She'd, begin to quell thirst and stuff on all of them and try and like help as many of them as she can.
And she did this kind of in the interim when we were rebuilding Scalaness.
Yeah.
And she had no other option but to go and help the vampires while this was happening.
She then began to look for a place for them to be that wasn't underneath the city. Dwelling.
Yeah.
And she went through basically earlier in the campaign. They went to somewhere called the Biltfell Crater, which was the other side of it was the material plane version of where Hrungnir was. Not Hrungnir. Where Tia was holding the chains. So basically that had been destroyed. And she'd built a spooky mansion there.
She built a big spooky mansion.
She went there and built a big spooky mansion.
Yeah.
She'd sent out a team of already quelled thirst vampires.
Yes.
And she'd called it Vinriel's
Vengeance.
Vinriel's Vengeance.
Because when Vinriel gave up his life to bring Priestess back, he said to us, he was like, you fucking tell her. She has to name this group after me.
So she's sent out a number of vampires, quelled thirst vampires called Vinriel's Vengeance to find any other vampires.
Yeah, and they were sent to specifically find the other vampires, either kill them if they weren't cooperative, or turn them.
Yeah.
Quell thirst them, basically.
And bring them onto this side of undeath.
And she had learned how to teach these other vampires how to do this
over
too.
time, yeah.
So
she sent out Vinriel's Vengeance into the land to find the rest of the vampires.
Yep. She also, we forgot to mention, after Vinriel had died, she needed someone. There was just a random fucking dude called Dirrell underneath, and she was like, Dirrell, you are Prince Regent Dirrell. And Dirrell was like, I'm all right. And we were all like, Dirrell is sus as fuck. Turns out Dirrell actually stepped up, to be honest.
Dirrell stepped up and did the job that he was needed to do.
Yeah, so Priestess actually kept Dirrell around.
Yeah, and so she built a spooky mansion. She set out Vinriel's Vengeance.
Yep.
And she did something else. What else did she do?
So she decided that because obviously vampires live in undeath, she created another group. And I can't remember what she called them. It was something like the Watchers or Keepers of Time.
Yeah.
And it was basically a group of vampires who would watch over Midgard, over all the corners of Midgard, to ensure nothing like this happened again.
Yeah, like because of eternal life.
Yeah.
You become it comes sort of hand in hand. You become very wise.
Yeah.
And you look for signs of repeating patterns.
Exactly. And that's exactly what she said.
Yeah.
To look for repeating patterns of this potentially happening again.
Something like this happening again.
And if it does, if they can stop it, they can, or report back to her, and then she can get the gang back together and do it again.
Yeah. So she sent out those two, and She lived in her spooky mansion in
in the by the spooky dead fields.
Yeah, the spooky dead fields that you have to go through to get the Billsfell crater. And her bats flew around, and it was a very nice, sweet.
It was so very priestess.
And then we got on to Igneous.
Yeah.
And Igneous met up with Thurin, which was a wizard that you met along the way,
Yes.
and someone called Zafrab,
Yes.
who was also a wizard you met along the way. And basically, Stockwagon was disbanded because the magic no longer flowed across the land anymore because Lothnir
was, again, this was kind of before we started doing campaign updates.
Lothnir had been captured, and he wasn't spreading his knowledge anymore, so the wizards basically
gave up
and disbanded Stockwagon.
But obviously the soul attached to Igneous's body, Orphe, he
was a previous wizard of
He was a previous wizard, and because they had fused together, Orphe had gifted Josh wizard stuff.
Some wizard stuff.
Basically,
so,
right?
Thurin, Zafrab, Orphe, and Igneous were like, let's go around all of the previous wizards.
Yep.
And
get the gang back together.
Get the gang back together. Some wizards said, nah, I'm done with that life. Happy living my post-Stockwagon life.
Yep.
Some took a bit of persuading but came back. Some were eager to come back. And then there was some people, now that Lothnir was spreading his wings again and laying magic across the land, who had got their newfound power.
Yeah.
And basically they were like training the newbies, finding out how to extract the souls from the Galder to set them free.
Yes.
And he'd also done something for Albert, which I'll let you explain.
Yeah, well, basically Igneous became the head of Stockwagon.
Mm-hmm.
He became the main man. And yeah, he said he very much was, he took novices on. He became a mentor to people. Anyone who didn't maybe have a purpose, because Igneous's whole backstory was he left home because he felt like he didn't have a purpose. He felt like he was never strong, so he couldn't help with his family. He had no magic.
Which,
so
all genasies are like inherently magic.
Yeah.
And for some reason he
had nothing.
He had nothing.
So he left, and that was kind of his story. So I think he wanted to make sure that if there was ever someone younger who maybe didn't have a purpose, who maybe wanted to study magic and become something, he took them under his wing, brought them into Stockwagon, as we thought he would, to be honest. And this is gonna fuck me up again.
So the whole point of Stockwagon and the whole like, it's very high in the land, it's very cold there, and they have like a dome around it, so it's like inside the dome is not cold and frosty and icy and snowy, but as soon as you come out, it's fucking freezing. So all of the major towers are like built in there in this like dome, this weatherproof dome.
And he also created, because getting up there was perilous as fuck.
Yeah.
Again, I know weren't doing campaigns updates when we did it, but it was very hard to get into.
Yeah.
He actually tightened the defenses and made it so it was more like a magic course isn't the right word for it, but he made
like
it
a magic obstacle course.
Yeah, if people wanted to get in, they had to be able to get through this first, which proved that they wanted to be there.
And proved that they were
capable
to be there as well.
Yeah, exactly. So
he built.
So
like being higher up is good because that means you get more of Lothnir's gifts. So he built a
spire.
When
he said spire, we were like, You built a spire?
But
no.
But at the top of it, there was like a resting area with like benches and chairs.
Yeah,
and stuff
it was like a viewing area.
It was like a viewing area. It was like a pier, but instead of it being built out like this,
it was
built up.
And it was higher than Stockwagon was.
So you could stand up at the top and like receive Lothnir's gift. But also,
he said, and he said like as he like erected this spire, you can sit here and you can watch Lothnir fly by and you can get the knowledge. But there's also going to be another person who's going to be going by. And you can look at her and feel safe and protected and know that you do have the ability to go on. And he was like, we've made a viewing platform for Vendari for when she goes by. And there's somewhere that she can stop if she needs to. And I just thought that was so... Yeah. He was like, at the end of last session, he was like, I'm going to do something that's going to fuck you up, by the way, Margaret. And fuck me up.
And it was like, we've got a lot ahead of us, and Lothnir's gifts are great and all, but like we also need to be brave, and that's what Vendari's going to give us.
He was like, my friend Vendari, and
And
That fucked me up.
They changed the crest of Stockwagon to not only be like two birds, which was Lofnir and Fafnir, but it was two birds and a wolf.
And a wolf, which that again, Josh has this way of speaking with his actions. And that was it. I just thought that was just so incredibly thoughtful and so kind. And you know, we had said in character, like, to be honest, it's probably going to be Igneous that Rayla sees the most in the future because they're so high in the sky. She'll be flying by, and
he also said that he was going to keep an eye out for Yomen.
Yes, he said that was going to be where they're going to watch out for Yomengander.
So that was sort of Igneous's thing.
Yep.
And then we went on to Rayla's thing.
Because I wanted to go last because mine was kind of like the immediate, but Matthew was like, I need to go last.
I have to go after you.
I fully understand
Margaret.
why now.
And we'll get onto that. But okay, so
I made some notes to what I briefly wanted to say to my friends. You know, for me, look at me. I'm an emotional being. I wanted Rayla's send-off to mean something to people, and I wanted to, like, culminate the feelings of friendship and love she had for everyone. And I wanted to make sure that she got it across.
Yeah.
So when we were still in the halls with Odin, we had said, are we going to see you again to him? Because obviously he was like, I'm going to be a little bit further away.
Be aloof a
yeah,
little bit. I'm going to give you the power that you need and the blessings that you need from a distance.
Yeah.
But I'm not really going to be putting much presence on Midgard for a little while.
Yeah. And Rayla was like, well, actually, I request your presence.
I request your presence.
Sorry, I need to get my iPad out. I would like to see you again. I invite you to Yggdrasil on this day, and it will be my final day on Midgard. So, please come.
Yeah.
And Odin agreed. Odin said yes. And Rayla basically kind of, we obviously we skipped time a lot. And we said like kind of in like the final year of like the rebuilding of Skalanes. Once everyone had started going their separate ways, they had all received a handwritten letter from Rayla, which was an invitation to Yggdrasil.
Yeah.
And not only did she invite the party, she obviously invited Odin, she invited King Frey, she invited Hrungnir and Yggdrasil, she invited Dagmar, she invited Alvar, a guy who was
from literally session 1.
Yeah. She invited Tia, she invited Zissa, the children.
All the good people.
Yeah. I wanted all of the people who we had formed connections with, who had helped us, who we were friends with, to be there.
Yeah.
And she invited everyone to Yggdrasil, and we just had a big party. We all got together. We all had songs and music and dance, and had a great time just being in each other's company again for the first time, probably in a collective happiness since everything happened in Skalanes. And then the next morning, as the sun was rising, Rayla gathered that small group of people.
Yeah, the core group of people.
She said goodbye to her mother and father who were there. And I don't know if you remember me saying, Rayla had the very first time she saw Vendari in her dreams. It was a memory of the first time she'd been in the Midnight Trials, and when she had gone to this small grove and there was a pool of water, and she looked down, she saw herself for the first time.
Well, you definitely heard about it when we did
the Revner
thing.
Yeah.
When she watched Rayla turn into Vendari for the first time. That was the pool and the rock that she sat by.
Yes. So Rayla brought everyone there, and it was just about to turn dawn, and she had Skull with her, and she turned to her sister, and should I do a voice?
If you want to.
I can read out in her voice.
Go on
then. Well, she turned to her sister first, and she said, I have to go now. And Tova was like, I know. I thought this was going to be the time. And well, Rayla was just like, I love you. I will see you again. Like, please take care of everyone. And Tova said, yeah. So Rayla also said goodbye to Revna. And then she turns to all of her friends. And she has her final goodbyes to her friends for the first time in a while. And this is just roughly what I had bullet pointed for them. So she goes up to Igneous, And she says, "A man made of stone and metal, and yet the gentlest of us all. A truly pure heart. You left your home because you did not feel worthy. But I see you, my friend, as a man that his father was already so proud of, and I cannot imagine the breadth of his pride now. What do you say?" And we had a conversation back and forth, and Igneous said, like, "I would never have been able to do this without you and the friends, so it's not just me." And they hugged and said goodbye, and Rayla said to Orphe, she said for him to look after him. And they had their final hug. And she goes to Hermeta, and she says, "And you are the most honourable man I have ever met, truly worthy of a seat in the halls of Valhalla. You are not just a hunter or a scout. You are a leader, and you are a hero. But most of all, you are my friend. And you have changed my world 100 times over. And I will meet you again in the halls." And they once again had a big old hug and a big old cry. And then she goes to Priestess, who was her best friend through all of this. And, you know, Rayla missed her sister throughout all of it. And Priestess kind of took up the mantle of that for her. And her speech to Priestess was, "Priestess, my friend, my sister, Mirkala. It turns out you are the bravest and the strongest of us all. There is no Odegar, no Fafnir. It's just you. Thank you for humouring me. I will miss you so deeply. And when the time is right, we will get Finriel back, I promise you. And you have taught me something. You have taught me about forgiveness and the slate being clean. So thank you." And they had a big hug, and Rayla turns to Skull and just says she's ready. And she turns into Vendari a final time, and Vendari took on a different appearance this time. Vendari's look had changed quite a lot throughout the campaign. Her final form was a wolf, one side a white wolf covered in flame, the other side a black wolf covered in galaxies. But this time she turned into just a silver wolf. But all 4 of her paws were wreathed in a gentle glowing blue light, the same light that surrounds Igneous's body. And her eyes are completely gold, shimmering like Priestess's jewelry, and dotted across her snout a dabbling of vitiligo, exactly like Hermeta's. The moon on her forehead remains lavender in hue like her sister's skin, and the runes lose control and no longer branded onto her shoulders, and instead, there is a giant rune of potential power that Angerboda would have left behind. And she turns into an amalgamation of her friends and the people who made her, and a homage to Angerboda, and she nods at her god, and Skull starts to run into the sky, and Rayla takes her first step and puts her paw into the sky, and she's able to make purchase with it. And then she takes another, and she takes another. And she starts sprinting into the air, and the whole time she's going, she says to herself, don't look back at them. Don't look back, because if you do, you're not going to go. But she does. And she looks back at all of her friends. And as she does, she starts to cry. And as she does, it brings starfall down from the sky. And there is starfall throughout all of Midgard. And she runs into the sky. And every year, the day that she left her friends, there is starfall throughout all of Midgard as Vendari cries into the sky at the loss of her friends. And that was the immediate. And then the kind of plan was, at first she would come back more often to see her friends and her family. And then as she was needed less and less, and she got more accustomed to living a solitary life
Mhm.
with her gods in the sky. She would come down less and less,
Mhm.
and she would stop every now and then at Stockwagen and see all the new recruits and talk to Igneous. But really, that was kind of it. And, over the course of hundreds of years, I said people would probably forget her name. People would forget the name Vendari. But they would just know that up there somewhere is the protector of the sky. And that's kind of what she became. As well as that, I also said, like, if she ever did see Yomengander, because the last thing we heard was he was in the sky, she wouldn't try to stop him. She wouldn't try to engage him. She would just nod at him and keep going. And that was Rayla's.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That was Rayla's.
that was Rayla's. That was Rayla's voice. I don't know if I did it okay because I was crying. But
You did a very good job.
and
And then we move on to Himeta.
then we move on to her metas.
So Matthew said, like, I spend most of my time and the years like in the rebuilding effort. That was very much his thing. He very much like took charge of that, and he knew that everybody else had different things. Like Josh went back off to Stockbag, and you obviously ascended. TRP had things to do with vampires, and he very much like focused a lot of his like effort and time into the rebuilding effort. So he said, I want to fast forward past the one shot that we're going to do.
Yeah. Like
And-
basically fast forward past any like extra things we're going to do. This is like the very
This is like
end.
30, 40 years
Yeah, like
in
40,
the future.
50 years in the future.
And basically, he goes somewhere near Grindle, in the lumber, near the lumber mill in the forest that's there. And he does a little prayer to the Watcher of the Sky, which is Margaret.
To Vendari.
To Vendari.
And Vendari comes immediately to her friend's request. Like it had probably been maybe decades since she had seen him.
Yeah.
But she could tell by the way that he had called to her that he needed her.
Yeah. And he, like, when you said you saw him, he said, like, he's a half-orc, so he aged quite quickly. There was salt and pepper in the beard, and
He walked with a limp.
There was wrinkles on the face. He was
He was old.
He was
old. And Vendari came down first as the wolf and then turned into Rayla.
Mm.
And Meta was like, it's been a really long time, Rayla. And Rayla was like, it has been so long since I've heard that name. And she was obviously uncomfortable walking in her human form because she was so used to being a wolf. And Meta said, you can be whatever's comfortable for you. And Rayla declined, and they held each other up as they walked along.
Yeah.
And Hemeta was like, I want to show you something.
Yeah, he walked you to two gravestones.
Yeah.
And it was the gravestones of his parents, and they were never really like a huge part of his backstory or anything like that.
He had never really he'd mentioned them, obviously, and he mentioned a brother. And he showed us the tombstones. And I apologize, I can't remember the name of the mother. I think it was maybe like Greta Berg or something like that.
Yeah.
And on his mother's tombstone there was a remembrance of a child that was lost with her, with child, and his father Raffen, and he said to Rayla, like, I never really talked about them too much. They were gone before I even met you and before my story began, so I never talked about them, but they were a big part of my life, and I miss them, and they're buried here together with my brother. And he's like, will you walk with me? So we go on a walk further out into Grindle, further into the forest. And he says, I've lived a long life. I've done everything I wanted to do. But I'm old. And I'm slow. And I can't think of a better way to go to the halls of Valhalla than to battle the greatest warrior I ever knew. And Rayla was like, I'm not doing that. I can't do that.
Yeah.
And Hemeta was like, I didn't bring you out here for pleasantries, Rayla. I want you to do this for me. This last thing, please. bury me with my parents and just let me go.
Yeah.
And
It was basically like the whole, like, Kimetta's entire thing was like, he was like, I want to go out, like, in battle. I want to go out.
I want to go out
with
fighting.
honor. I want to go
Yeah.
out fighting. I want to go out with honor, and I want to make it to the halls of Valhalla. And when Odin was there with them in the halls of Valhalla, he kept saying to Hymeta, because Hymeta kept talking about being in the halls of Valhalla, he was like, "Don't come here too soon.
Yeah,
though."
don't rush it.
Like, don't rush it. You've got a life to live. And Hymeta at this point had basically turned to Rayla and said,
I've lived the life.
I've lived the life.
I've
and
lived it.
I'm ready to go.
And I want to go. And I want to have the fight of my life.
Yeah.
And Rayla was like, I'll carry this burden with me for the rest of my life. And Hymeta was like, I know. And thank you. So, we do.
I was like,
You were like,
I stopped everything for a moment and I was like, are you sure? And is everyone okay with this?
And Matthew was like, absolutely.
And you
and
said,
I said, yeah. If this is what he wants. And I know Matthew wouldn't have asked me if he didn't want that.
And it was more for you because you had to basically
kill
of
Hymeta. Course. And, I knew there was part of me that considered not doing it, honestly. But I was like, he wouldn't have asked me if he was happy with this outcome.
And, like, it wouldn't have been as easy to say yes to, but the whole campaign, all he ever wanted. All he wanted was to die a warrior's death, die an honorable death, and
die in battle.
And just go to the Hall of Valhalla. And he was like, and I don't want anyone to kill me apart from
and
you.
I don't want that taken away from me as well.
Yeah.
So we do. Rayla wild shapes and they battle.
The fight begins.
Rayla initially takes it, kind of slow on him, and it is kind of saying throughout the whole thing, like, we don't have to do this, but Hymeta just goes for it, and
he was like, and you can see that I am like
giving it my all.
I'm giving it my all, but I am slow. Like, I've slowed down. Like, I'm not the warrior that I once was, but I'm giving it everything. And it was like, you were like, I hold back at first, but then when I realized, like, he's like desperate to go out with a proper fight, you didn't want him to deny him that. So you were like, I give him everything.
I gave him everything.
And then the battle goes on.
And I land the killing blow on him.
Hymeta lays down for the final time
in
battle.
As he does, as Rayla like lays the blow on him, she morphs out into her drow form, and she like catches him as he falls, and she cradles him in her arms, and she had this thing where she would always like tuck the hair behind his ear, and she did it for a final time, and she kissed her friend on the forehead.
Yeah.
And she said, rest. And she turned his head so he could look at his parents' graves. And he dies in her arms. And Rayla spends the next few days, weeks, sitting there mourning the loss of her friend.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally she buries him.
Yeah.
She buries him next to his parents.
Yeah.
She gives him exactly the same type of tombstone that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Then it just read, Hymeta Berg, dining in the halls of Valhalla.
And then the campaign ends in the fight is over between you two. You bury him next to his parents, and the next thing that Hymeta sees is he hears like a hustle and bustle, and he hears revelry and livelihood as he sits on a very comfortable chair on a very comfortable bench in a very warm, cozy atmosphere, as he's surrounded by people he knows that are all in this golden, incorporeal sort of nature as he looks at his hands. But the thing is, this time, everybody on the outside of the halls of Valhalla, where he sat, isn't that golden. He's full. He's him. And the people that come in and out of the halls of Valhalla to see Odin, they're the incorporeal ones. As he sits there and he drinks his mead, surrounded by his friends, he looks down the table and sees Thor, as Thor gives him a cup up, and he looks up to the head of the halls of Valhalla as Odin raises his glass to him, and he says, right on time. As they both take a drink. That's where the campaign ended.
Man.
And it's over.
Oh, and that's it. I hope you're happy.
I can't believe it's over.
I can't believe it's over either. And once again, what a perfect ending. What a completely perfect ending. And for you to be so witty to say right on time, I don't know how you did that. That was so good. It was good. It was shit, man.
Yeah.
So you know how I said it was really sad? What do you think?
It was pretty sad.
It was pretty sad, and once again there was sobbing tears.
It was pretty sad.
It was pretty sad.
I think it just ended so well.
It ended so perfectly.
I couldn't have been happier with how it ended.
I can't think of a more perfect way for it to end. Genuinely, our characters ended perfectly.
Yeah.
You know, Hermeta ended perfectly. Rayla did. Priestess did. Igneous did. We all ended perfectly. I feel like your story ended perfectly.
Yeah.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's it until, we come back for a one shot or we meet them again in the future. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
My nose is so blocked. I apologize.
That's why we will leave the story of Rayla, Igneous, TRP, and Hermeta.
Yeah.
Campaign is over.
Yeah, and it's so bittersweet. I'm still mourning the loss of it. I think about it every day. Ruins me. I did this last time as well. I went through like a stage of mourning for like a month. But we have a lot of one shots coming up, so
got a lot to look forward to.
And you know what? We were all obviously crying our fucking guts out at the end of it. But you picked us back up and you were like, right, okay, I know it's still a long time away, but while we're here and to get our minds off it, why don't we roll the stats for our new characters?
Yeah.
So we did. We rolled the stats for our new characters. It went really well. Well, I say that. You gave us a minimum of 75 and
46 dropped the lowest.
Listen, Josh had to reroll 7 times.
Josh had to reroll 7 times because he couldn't get above 75.
I can't. I've never seen anyone roll.
It was so bad. But everyone got some good stats. Margaret got some really good stats.
Should I say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll tell you. Do you want to know the name of my new character?
Do you know it?
Yeah, I do.
I don't know it.
Her name is Blythe.
Oh, yes, I do know it.
Her name is Blythe.
You mentioned it. I don't think you'd settled on it just yet.
So I rolled an 11, a 13, a 14, a 15, a 15, and a 14.
Unreal.
Really, really good stats, especially for something like a paladin, and that I'm going to multi-class out of as well.
And like the thing is with like 15, 15, 14, 14, 13, 11, there's no negatives.
Yep.
Like if you wanted to do the thing where you take the 3+1s or the +2+1, but like paladins paladins need 3 good scores, really. 15 goes to a 16, 15 goes to a 16, 13 goes to a 14, and that would mean 16, 16, 14, 14, 14.
Really good stats. Really, really good stats. I don't know how I rolled them, honestly.
That's unreal.
I don't know how I rolled them. So yeah, I think I rolled the best. Then Matthew.
See, you rolled like 15, 15, 14, 14, 13, 11's great.
I didn't get the highest.
You didn't get the highest.
I think Matthew got the highest with 18.
Somebody had an 18, somebody had a 17, somebody had a 16.
Yeah.
You had, when we added them all up, Margaret has the highest overall. Yes. She has the lowest high.
Yeah, they're scattered.
Yeah,
so,
that's why it's good.
So we ended it on that note, which was nice.
Yeah, which was nice.
So that's it.
There we go. The campaign has ended.
Done.
Thank you so much, everyone, for all of your interest in it and just cheering for us along the way and being excited for it. We've really, really, really fucking enjoyed it. I'm very, very appreciative to all of you for being so nice about my campaign.
Agreed. Thank you to everyone who did fan art of Rayla and Priestess as well. I know that there was some Priestess fan art. I need to get some commissions of Rayla's Vendari's new form. I need to get some commissions as well of like maybe like Rayla's finishing act, I suppose. But thank you so much to everyone who I feel like you came along on this ride with us and you were just as invested and you cried with me and you laughed with us. And you encouraged Jack and you hyped him up and you hyped all of us up. So thank you. You made the campaign so much more special, I think, than
I think it was going to be special to us.
It was going to be special anyway.
But it just felt like it ended up being a little bit bigger than us.
Yeah, it did.
Which was kind of crazy.
Again, I say it every time. I wish more than anything we could actually bring you into the campaign and you could watch it. But that's not something that we're ever going to be able to do. But I wish we could. And I hope you enjoy hearing the campaign updates like this. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you to anyone who watched this.
Yeah.
This is another 2 hours extra.
2 hours extra of content for you all.
So thank you.
So thank you.
I don't know if we're going to put this on a watch party. If we do, thank you to everyone in the watch party as well.
Yeah.
I don't really know what else to say, to be honest.
Well, we'll say thank you all very much.
Thank you. And we're going to start Jack's new campaign probably in the new year.
Yeah.
We are going to be doing some one-shots, which will keep you in the loop of.
Yeah, we'll keep you in the loop. I'll tell you what we play, what they're called, what they look like, what the stats are, all that good stuff, and we'll just sort of keep you filled in so you can still get a chunk of our content.
Yeah.
So we love you very much, and thank you all for being here. I love you.
I love you.
Bully loves you.
Yep.
We've been the Eldritch Podblast, and we'll see you on Monday. Bye,
Maybe.
guys. Bye.